Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by the Glenn Lundy. Good morning or good afternoon for, well, your morning, I'm afternoon.
Good morning, man. Good morning. Glad to be here. I appreciate you sharing this space and time with me. I really do.
Awesome to have you on. So Glenn, give us an idea. Who are you? What do you do? And where do you come from?
Yeah, my name is Glenn Lundy. I'm a husband to one, a father to seven, going on eight little babies. I am a 22-year automotive professional and also the host of the wildly popular Facebook Live show, hashtag Rise and Grind. And that's me in a nutshell.
I don't know. What do you do with your days then? I mean, obviously you've got plenty of time in your hands, right?
Yeah, man, just sitting around watching Netflix, right? Just binge watching as often as possible.
Oh, I love it. There's so many things I can pick on there, but I'm going to go straight in here. I mean, what does Fire in the Belly mean to you?
And fire in the belly to me just means, the fuel. Like, what is that burning, aching desire that you have inside you that ultimately fuels your decisions, fuels whether you go left, whether you go right, whether you sleep in, whether you get up, whether you work out, whether you don't work out, whether you stay late, whether you don't stay late, whether you attack the goal or don't attack the goal. It all comes down to that fuel that you have inside. So when I think fire in the belly, that's what I think about.
And what's that for you then? What's your passion? What's your drive?
Man, I just know that I'm called for something powerful, right? Like I believe that we are three-dimensional beings, mind, body, and spirit. And there's something in my spirit that tells me we can be better. We can be better as humans, we can be better as a civilization, we can be better in our businesses. And so that desire to just be better, even if it's 1% better every single day, for my kids, for my family, and ultimately for the impact that we can make in other people's lives. So, Pete, I'm a firm believer we have a born on date and an expiration date, and that dash in the middle, that dash stands for impact. That's it. What kind of impact are you going to make in other people's lives? So that's what it's all about for me is I'm always chasing bigger, broader, more expansive, and more long-lasting impact in other people's lives.
That's an interesting use of words. I mean, talking about chasing. I mean, is that a positive or a negative? I mean, where are you going with that?
Yeah, man, constantly chasing, right? I think it's Eric Thomas, or maybe it came from somewhere else and he read it, who knows? But he talks about, the lion and the gazelle. They both know no matter what, the gazelle wakes up every day and knows it has to run, or it's going to get eaten. And the lion knows that it has to get up and run, or it's going to starve. And so either way, whether you're the lion or the gazelle, you better wake up running. So I'm always about chasing things down. I'm not a passive person. I am not a Venus flytrap. I am not going to sit here and wait for my rewards and my abilities to impact other people's lives. I'm not just going to sit here and wait for it to show up in my lap, man. I'm going to go chase it down relentlessly every single day.
I love it, and I love the energy you're putting across as you talk about that. It sounds like it's really coming from your core, right?
Hey, thank you, man. Yeah, it's in me. Eat, sleep, breathe.
And you talk out there about I like that three dimensions you talked about: the mind, the body, and the soul, really, or your spirit. Sorry. And what's the main driver in those three?
The main driver in those three, I think, they all have equal responsibility. All three of them. I could be an incredibly spiritual person and have a divine connection, but mentally I might be messed up, man. I might be messed up mentally, pre-programmed to believe things that aren't real, doubts, fears, limitations. If we don't clear those things out, then we can't chase down that spiritual. We can't bring ourselves to follow that divine call, right? And then on the other side of that, if my body is physically broke down, if I'm overweight, if I can't breathe, all of those things, then that also limits my ability to be able to, pursue that divine nature that we have inside us, and also affects us mentally, because when you don't look good, you don't feel good, right? So I think all three play an equal role in achieving success.
That's a really interesting concept there. So, I mean, from what I'm understanding, if I've picked you up correctly, you can have a divine connection per se, but then also, potentially be, sabotaging yourself physically. You can have both. So, is that what, have I picked that up correctly?
100% spot on, man. We've got to serve all three areas, mind, body, and spirit, if we ultimately want to get in tune with that frequency, to be able to achieve greatness.
Hmm. And I mean, would I be right in sort of labeling that? Is that alignment? Is that, when those three come together, is that an alignment piece, or what? How would you sort of summarize that?
Yeah, 100%, man. When you can get in alignment, it's just like a tuning fork. When you use a tuning fork, you're trying to tune that piano or that instrument. You're trying to find that exact right frequency to where that vibration is just the most impactful that it can possibly be on your listener. And it's the exact same way when it comes to us, mind, body, spirit. You get them in line. That's finding that frequency so that you can vibrate. It's our vibrations, it's the energy that we release that ultimately determines the impact that we can have.
Wow, I like that. I like that. And is that, when you talk about releasing energy, I mean, is that for you, that sort of that state? Is there a certain time that you find you release more energy than others? I mean, when does that happen for you?
Well, for me, man, I've got a lot of energy all the time. I'm pretty much the Energizer Bunny when it comes to those types of things. But definitely the most important part of the day to tune your mind, body, and spirit is first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning, we have to set our foundations. We have to foundationally put ourselves in a place to win. And so when you first wake up, your mind is ready to consume, right? We've been in this state of rest. And as we become more aware and alert, your mind immediately is hungry. It's like, gimme, 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 gimme. I need data. I need information. Where am I? What do the walls look like? Am I safe? What's the temperature? What's going on? Like, your mind is instantly trying to consume data. And so I believe that protecting that first hour of the day is probably one of the most important things that any human being can do on this planet. I do not allow outside influences into my circle within that first hour. I just don't allow it. I protect it at all costs. So I don't listen to music that might have certain words that could ultimately affect my energy and how I feel. I take the time for gratitude and goals and prayer, and to spend time, just getting everything in line and in tuned. I make sure to take care of myself physically, as far as getting my body into motion, because an object in motion tends to stay in motion. And so I'm a firm believer in that first period of the morning. I actually wrote a short little ebook about this called The Morning Five Simple Steps to an Extraordinary Life. And it just comes down to feeding mind, body, and spirit first thing in the AM. And then step five of the whole equation is, now we release that positive energy out into the world by sending out an encouraging message. Lift someone else up, send them a text, do a phone call, send them a message on Facebook, do something to release this energy out, because energy never goes away. It never dissipates. All that energy does is circulate and come back in different forms. So when you release positive energy out, it is a a scientific law that energy has to come back to you in some form, later down the road. So I'm all about that, man. That's where, the Bible says, or maybe it's not the Bible, but it talks about, whatever you give out, you're going to get back tenfold, that type of deal. That's that same principle.
I love it. And there's a lot of, I mean, you're using a lot of kinesthetic language there. A lot of feeling, a lot of, sense. Is that something you're aware of? Is that something you work to?
Yeah, man. Over the last few years, I've had the blessing to be able to come around, people that have helped me to get a better understanding of that, as well as my studies and readings and books and videos and all of those things. And it's that last element that we don't get taught in school, right? You get taught, that we hear, we see, we smell, we taste, and we feel. They tell you that we have five senses, which is crazy. We have so many more than five senses. And I think we all get that. But that last sense really is your energy, man, your vibration. All of those things come together to make you uniquely who you are and give you the ability to resonate in other people's spirits and other people's souls in the same way.
Hmm. And just out of interest, I mean, are you would you say you're your true self? I mean, are you one and the same of who you're supposed to be and where you are right now? Is that all in alignment for you?
I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there, but I still have a long way to go. I've only been walking down this particular path for the last decade or so. But I'm 42 years old, man. I've got 32 years of programming that has to be sorted and shifted and rewired and all of those things. So there's still doubts, limited beliefs, fears, things of this earth that get in the way. And I don't know if anybody gets to 100% in this existence. I think maybe what was that movie with John Travolta? He got to like a 100% clarity, and he just became pure energy, right? Or Powder. That movie Powder was the same thing, just pure energy. And so maybe that's when you punch your ticket. When you can get to that clarity point where you can just become pure energy. Then who knows? Maybe we can
Hmm.
drop the physical form and live in eternity. I don't know. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Well, listen, if you suddenly combust, we know what's happened, right? You just had
Just
you,
poof, gone.
you've just gone to the next level. It's like we can't even compute that,
That's
right?
exactly right, right?
I love it. So you're either trying or you're dying. That's what I'm getting across here, right?
No doubt, 100% fact.
Hmm. So tell us, take us right back. Talk to us about Mini Glenn. Who are we looking at here?
About which Glenn?
Mini Glenn.
Mini Glenn, man. Mini Glenn was just a crazy little dude, man. Grew up in a very unique situation. Grew up with, I'm mixed. My dad is black, my mom is white, and they got divorced when I was like 11 years old. My dad, who was black, got remarried and married a black woman. My mom, being white, she got remarried and married a white dude. And then they moved into the same apartment complex. So my mom and her new husband were in apartment 28. My dad and his new wife were in apartment 30, just two doors down. And what was crazy, she also had four kids, my dad's new wife. So what was crazy is culturally it was so different in dad's house and mom's house. Every stereotype that you could think of existed in these houses. So dad's house was like collard greens, Motown music, gospel, lots of sports, television, loud. Like dad's house was just it was wild, man. It was a wild place. And mom's house was much more quiet, maybe some rock and roll, some country music, hanging out in bowling alleys and things like that over on mom's side. So I grew up kind of in these two different, very, very, very different cultures, but simultaneously, side by side, two doors apart from each other. Super, super crazy. So growing up like that, now I look back and I'm so thankful because it gave me this ability to get along. I can get along with everyone. I can see things through other people's perspectives and viewpoints. So I love that. The negative side was when I was young and developing, I had a hard time determining where do I fit in. My skin's too dark for me to be white. It's too light for me to be black. So culturally, I didn't get it. And that caused me to get into a lot of trouble. I had a lot of surface relationships, no deep relationships. And whatever was happening, if it looked good and it felt good, I was in. So I ended up hanging out with some of the wrong people and the wrong crowds and getting into a lot of trouble through my middle school and high school years. I was obviously, or not obviously, but I was always an avid student. I was very intelligent. So grades were never a problem. But that also left me a lot of freedoms to get in a lot of trouble outside of school because I didn't have to study. I didn't have to spend all those hours that other people had to spend. Um, so yeah, a lot of trouble through high school. That trouble kind of continued, carried on with me up into college. And in college, I met a young lady when I was 20 years old, and she got pregnant, and that's where I had my first of now going on 8 children. But she got pregnant, and I dropped out of school, hit the workforce hard at 20 years old, got into the automotive industry, and the automotive industry, I was really, really good at it, man. I was a great salesperson. I had a great mouthpiece. I could get along with everyone. The biggest problem, though, was I was living a 2D life back then. Looked good, felt good. That's all that mattered. And so it was only a period of time before that relationship deteriorated. I ultimately lost custody of my daughter when she was 6 years old. I wasn't allowed to be around her anymore. And that led me to a deep state of, well, first, it led me to kind of run away. I had this victim mentality where it was everyone's fault. So I packed up all my stuff and moved from my hometown, which led me to burning a lot of bridges, making a lot of mistakes. And as the path goes on, depression, limiting beliefs, so on and so forth, to where I ended up actually homeless on the streets of San Diego, California, for a period of time. The homelessness led to deeper depression, which led to suicidal thoughts, which led to an actual suicide attempt. I tried to take my own life in the Pacific Ocean. I failed at that. And that was kind of the point where I realized, like, Glenn, you take yourself wherever you go, bro. Like, you're not a victim in this situation. You are the, all of this is flowing through you. All of these problems you're blaming on others are actually following, flowing through you. So once I started to discover that, that opened my eyes. I began a journey of self-awareness and self-development. Studied all things, like I just wanted to get a grasp of this third dimension. So I studied Scientology and Buddhism and Christianity and lots of different things, to try to get a spiritual understanding. And that led me to an amazing journey where I left my comfortable western coast of the country and landed in Kentucky, where I live now, and met my wife, got back into automotive, have had a lot of success in the automotive industry since then. Now lots of babies, and now I get to spend this time with amazing humans like you, all the way over there in Ireland, which is amazing. And so yeah, so that's kind of 30 years packed into 5 minutes.
Super. So you're sorted now. So listen, Glenn, it was great talking to you.
Yeah,
So
thanks, man. Great. This is a great podcast. I appreciate it.
no, I love it. I mean, there's so much there, but take us right back. I mean, pre-divorce, pre everything else. I mean, who was Glenn? I mean, who are we talking to as a young fella?
Yeah, man. So I was just, I don't have a ton of memories before the age 11. I have very few. So while my parents were married, it was a very volatile relationship. My
Mm.
dad was a military man. He was also the youngest of 13. He grew up in poverty and he was a very hard man. Discipline wise, he was very physical when it came to discipline. My mother, she wasn't allowed to do things like have her own friends or have a driver's license or have a job. He was very controlling. We had to ask to get a drink of water. We had to ask to take a shower. We had to ask to do all of those things. And so most of those period, that period of my life, I have very, very few memories before age 11. I can remember um, one birthday that only one person showed up because there was a blizzard in Flagstaff, Arizona that day. My birthday's around Christmas. I can remember smashing my thumb in a big door in Germany when we were in Germany, and I've got one thumb longer than the other because of it. So I can remember that, and a couple little things from school, but for the most part, it's very dark up until that divorce.
Mm. I mean, do you remember being yourself? I mean, there's a lot going on there, but and saying you've since gone on this voyage of discovery. I mean, is it snapping back to someone that you once were as such, your true self, or do you think have you ever known yourself?
Yeah, I don't think it's just very unclear that season, those first 10, 11 years.
Hmm.
It's just a couple little spotted things because I don't think I had an identity before then. I don't think any of us had it. My sister, my mom, none of us had an identity. Dad controlled the narrative.
Hmm.
Dad told us when to go to bed, when to get up, when to take a shower, when to drink water, when we could speak, when we couldn't speak. And so I think just as a kid, and we didn't know, you don't know any different as a kid. Your parent is your parent. And so I think that that's probably part of the reason I can't remember very much is because it was all just very regimented.
Hmm.
We were I don't want to say pawns because that would hint towards some sort of intelligent strategy, and I don't think it was an intelligent strategy of his. But we were just pieces of furniture basically in his life, and it wasn't until my mom, as my hero, fought her way out of that relationship. It wasn't until then that we were able to start exploring what does life look like? Who are we, you know?
And so, what was Glenn going to do when he grew up? What was the plan?
So I was going to be well, there's lots of things that Glenn wanted to do. Depended on where the money was. I was always all about the money, man. In middle school, I started selling candy, Jolly Ranchers, blow pops, all of that stuff. I was known as the candy man in middle school. I was always chasing down the dollar. But ultimately, I wanted to be, there was two things I wanted to be. I wanted to be a pit boss in Las Vegas. I always loved gambling. I studied casinos all through middle and high school. I used to draw pictures of roulette wheels when I was young. I memorized all the numbers on the roulette wheel and learned how to count cards for blackjack. All of those different things. I was very much obsessed with that whole Vegas environment. I wanted to go to UNLV. I wanted to do, all of that. So that was part of my dream. And then on the other side of it, I wanted to go into engineering. I wanted to be an engineer, which is actually what I got a scholarship for college was to be an engineer, a computer engineer. And so I had a passion for that, but really it was because somebody told me that engineers made over $100,000 a year. And back then I was like, yeah, that's it, man. If I could just make $100,000 a year, I'd have it made forever. So very money motivated, all through those days, very, very into sales and entrepreneurship, creating my own businesses, that type of thing. That was always a part of me. But I guess ultimately the biggest dream was pit boss in Vegas, man. That would have been awesome, dude. At least if I could have done a few years of that, I think that would have been cool.
Sounds pretty cool. I mean, hey, I would sign up on that too. It sounds awesome. What was the money going to get you?
I don't know, man. Freedom, I think.
Hmm.
Really, it's not. I like nice things, but I don't care about nice things. I just like being able to choose, and maybe that comes back to not being able to in my childhood, not being able to do anything on my own. So, to me, money equals freedom. I'm free to serve others. I'm free to tip 50% if I want to. I'm free to order four more remote controls for my television because my kids keep losing mine. uh, so whatever it is, I associate money with freedom. um, and there's nice, like I said, there's nice things that come along with that, but that's not really the motivating factor. It's just the ability to choose to do what I want when I want, in the way that I want to do it.
And for you, is that pleasure based or pain based? I mean, is it freedom so that you never have what you didn't, or is it what could be?
I think it depends on which age Glenn you're talking to. In my 20s, it was definitely pain based. I had a lot of pent up aggression. My dad and I did not get along. I had a lot of hate for that man and what he had done to my mom and to us. But as time progressed, as I got older and he got older, that shifted and that changed. And once I started to realize that we're 3D, not 2D, and that there's a spiritual element to us, and that for me personally, my my real father is a divine one, one that's in heaven, not that's on this earth. I was able to shift from a pain place to where now it just brings me pure joy, to be able to provide a life for my kids that they get to have, and to be able to do the things that we do with my Rise and Grind show, and with dealers around the country, and with my wife. She hasn't had to work in a decade, and all of that stuff just brings me pure joy at this point.
Mm, that's beautiful. I mean, to go through that, and I suppose with kids yourself, I mean, what will you do different now for your kids that coming through? What's your mantra with them? Do you have one?
Well, every a couple of things. One, I almost give them too much freedom. There's probably a little bit of my dad that I maybe should have held on to, because my kids can get a little bit wild. They're great kids, but they do have a lot of freedoms and luxuries that I never could have imagined. Um, but I whisper in all of my kids' ears when they're in their first formative years, like the first 3 or 4 years of their life. I constantly whisper in their ears while they're sleeping or while we're snuggling on the couch, and I'll just whisper in their ears and just remind them. I tell them, I say, Joel, or whichever one of my kids, I'm like, Joel, you want to know a secret? And they're like, what? I'm like, you're a superhero. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, you're a Lundy. As a Lundy, that means you have a special power, a special ability. And they're always like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you have the ability to create whatever it is you want in your life. You can create it. If you want it, you can go get it. And so I plant those seeds very, 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 very early. And I think, that's why, because I didn't have that. And so all of my kids are very, they know if they want to try, the answer is yes. If they have a dream, the answer is go for it. If they want to go out there and hurt themselves, I'm like, all right, hey, you might get hurt along the way, but you're welcome to go make that choice if you want to. I want them to choose what path their life goes on.
What would you whisper into your own ear?
So now I whisper in my own ear. I don't have to anymore. I have so many other people that are whispering in my ears nowadays. I've studied so many successful people. I've watched so many videos. I've read so many books that right now you see me and it looks like Glenn Lundy sitting in a chair, but really I'm sitting in a chair, and Jim Rohn's over here, and John Maxwell's over here, and Les Brown and Eric Thomas and Joel Osteen and Simon Sinek and Bob Proctor, and my mentors, Josh Cummins and Danelle Delgado, and just all of these people. They're all sitting on my shoulder. So they're whispering in my ear now. And one of the biggest and loudest things that I hear right now in this season, because I very much believe that mentors are here for a season. They're not somebody you're supposed to run with your entire life. But one of the things that I hear in my ear often is, I was at an event speaking, and it was one of my very first big speaking events. And I was speaking on the stage with Eric Thomas, ET, the hip hop preacher, number one motivational speaker in the world. And after sharing a stage with him, this is a guy that I'd listened to for years. And after sharing a stage with him, he met me in the back, and he gave me his cell phone number. He said, here, take my cell phone number. Word. And Pete, I was a fanboy, dude. I was like, Eric Thomas, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This is crazy. Total like fanboy. And I normally don't do that with celebrities. I normally don't care, but for some reason I just fanboyed out on ET. And as I went back into the green room, One of my mentors, Danelle Delgado, I told her like, "Oh my gosh, look, Eric Thomas gave me his phone number," and she's like, "Oh, that's great, that's great." And I sat down, I was all like screenshotting that I had his number, so I could show it to my wife, all excited. And Danelle leaned into my ear and she said, "Glenn, you're the asset." And I just like kind of looked at her and she was like, "Whatever room you walk into, you are the asset. He gave you his number because he believes and sees something in you that would be an asset to him. He didn't give you his number because he wants to be an asset to you." And so since then, that has really empowered me to create a lot of things. I just walk, it doesn't matter who I'm in the room with, who I'm interviewing, who I'm talking to. Uh, I take responsibility to be an asset in that room. That responsibility causes me to study hard, read books, live out my core values, be the best that I can be, because I want that to be true always, which I know it is on a divine nature. I know that we're all assets no matter what room that we walk into, but I also want it to be in a physical nature and a mental nature. I want to add so much value to every connection humanly possible that when I walk away, they turn to their buddy and say, "He's the asset."
That's so powerful to be at that place, and it's in entrepreneurship, it can be hard to get that right, because you talked about almost a pre-Glen and a post-Glen.
Yeah.
It's understanding that, giving, adding value, being there as opposed to just being a collector, and someone that takes the value.
Yeah,
It's
no doubt.
so what I mean. Talk to us then about, you talked about going through that period, and even up to losing custody and getting to that point. Talk to us then about sort of the change, if you like.
From losing custody.
Yeah.
So once I lost custody of my daughter, it was devastating for me. Um, and really at that point in my life, I was such a finger pointer. It was definitely everyone else's fault. I couldn't have had anything to do with it. There's no way that it could have been me. And so the biggest change, through that season, and that season lasted about 2 years, from losing custody of her to ultimately landing in Kentucky. But through that season, there was a transformation that was going on inside of me that I fought against as hard as I could possibly fight against it, because taking responsibility for your own pain is not easy. I mean, that's not easy to look in the mirror and go, "Yeah, you jackass, it's your fault," right? Like, I'm stubborn and hard headed and I'm a salesperson. I convinced myself every which way that it was everyone else's fault but my own. And so that took a while. But once I was able to embrace the fact that failures, once I was able to own the failures, it at the exact same time, I was then able to own success, right? If I'm responsible for the losses, then I'm responsible for the wins. If I'm the one causing myself to be in these negative situations, then I can be the one to put myself in positive situations. And so that was a huge, huge, huge transformation for me.
What I mean, I suppose to try and keep people. I mean, what sort of values, or what that negative behavior, what would that have looked like from the outside?
Hold on, Pete. I'm sorry. You said this is pre-recorded, right?
Yeah.
Okay, give me two.
Perfect. And just out of interest, I mean, you talked about core values there a short time ago. I mean, can you give us an idea what your core values are?
Yeah, so core values, they kind of differ. I've got core values for my business and core values for my home. With my family, I've got core values specifically for me, and ultimately, it's there are um, the, there's the things that I won't tolerate, the lines that I won't cross, those types of things. So, for example, with Rise and Grind, this show that I do, our core values are rise, evolve, impact together. Those are our four main words. So we help people and believe in rising every single day with intention and purpose. Evolution is required. We must all be evolving to the best version of ourselves we can possibly be at all times. So every decision we make in the company comes down to, are we evolving as a company, and are we helping other people evolve as well? Impact is what it's all about. Like I told you, that little dash in the middle, I believe that impact is the meaning of life. And then this word together, I try to create, I try to create everything that I try to create. I try to bring people together through it. I'm not about dividing people. I'm not about being polarizing. I'm not interested in all of that. There's a place for that, and I'm glad for those people, right? You want to be, I get it. Some people are like, you have to be polarizing, you have to have an opinion. I agree we should all have an opinion. I don't agree that we should always share it, right? We should be doing things to bring people together, not to tear people apart. So those are like our core values, when it comes to the business. At home, we have belief systems that we believe in, and obviously things like, being kind, being trustworthy, and being loyal, and those types of things. So, but yeah, all once you know your core values, what's a hard no, and once you know that, it makes it so much easier, dude. You're free. People come to me with opportunities all the time. They're like, Glenn, I've got this incredible opportunity. And if it goes against any of my core values, it's real easy to just be like, hey, you're awesome, but I'm out, right? And I think sometimes people have a hard time doing that. They have a hard time saying no. So knowing your core values helps you just know when to say yes and when to say no. And as long as you stay on that path, you can't go wrong.
What is a hard no for you?
I say hard no to anything shady, anything criminal, anything defeating or deflating, anything negative, anything that's going to make someone feel less than, and anything that's going to make someone feel alone. Man, when I was homeless, people think being homeless, they think like it's got to suck to be hungry. It's got to suck to not have a roof over your head. But in reality, when it comes to homelessness, the worst part of homelessness is you're invisible. No one sees you. They won't make eye contact with you. Maybe they're afraid you're going to mug them. Maybe they're afraid that you're going to ask them for money and you're going to make them feel guilty or feel shameful for not supporting or helping you. Maybe they think that you're a drug addict. Maybe they think you deserve to be in the position that you're in. Maybe they think that you need to get off your rear end and go get a job. Whatever the reason is, ultimately, people won't make eye contact. And when you become invisible, you start to blend in with the benches, with the trees, with the shrubbery, with the background. It is such an awful, dark, lonely, painful place. I mean, it's terrible. There's nothing like that. So I will never, ever, ever do anything that makes someone feel even a sliver of what I felt when I was in that place, when I was in that completely invisible place.
What I mean, can you give us a bit of an idea? I mean, what's the inner talk at that point? I mean, what sort of questions are you asking yourself when you're at that point?
At the invisible place,
Yeah, that invisible, that sort of homeless, that you're in a place that I'm assuming is not a nice or a comfortable place to be at.
yeah, sure. I mean, when that's what ultimately led to a real deep depression and wanting to take my own life. Is it's so dark and every day is the same. It's like Groundhog Day, man, and you can't do anything to like break out of it. It's awful. So it's just wake up, do the same thing all day, go to bed, do the same thing, over and over and over and over and over and over. And each day you just get further removed from society. Each day you feel smaller and smaller and smaller. Each day you're telling yourself things like, The world would be better without me. My mom would not have to worry about me. She worries about me now. She wouldn't have to worry about me if I was dead, right? Like you sell yourself on this idea that you have no worth, no value, and it doesn't matter. You know, when I hear of people taking their own lives, I weep, and I weep because I know what they felt in the moment immediately before they took that action, and not even just immediately, but normally for a long period of time, you know. And I just know what they felt, and it's awful because you convince yourself, you literally convince yourself the world would be better if you weren't in it. It's not. Everybody thinks suicide is a selfish thing, right? That, oh, I'm just had to get rid of my pain, but really it's not. It's an outward, very physical action that comes from a place of servitude. You feel as though you are serving your loved ones by removing yourself so that you can no longer hurt them.
And that's, I was going to say, I mean, who was able to get through to you? I mean, was anyone? I mean, at that point,
Well, so once I attempted and failed, then it was like, okay, so I can't. I'm even a failure at that. I can't even do that right. Like, it kind of added another thing to the list. But luckily, the universe works in mysterious ways, and so I came in connection with a book called Dianetics. And Dianetics is the study of the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind. It was written by L. Ron Hubbard, who is the father, now is the father of Scientology. But in that particular book, written in 1950s, before it was ever Scientology, it was just a study of the human mind and how it works. And so I came across that book, and in reading that book and then ultimately taking some courses at the Church of Scientology, I was able to get a better understanding of the demons that I had locked in my subconscious that were controlling my decisions. And so once I was able to unlock some of those, experience some of those, take them from subconscious limiting thoughts to conscious, active, productive stories and pieces of my history. Once I was able to do that, it helped propel me to a point where I was able to ultimately, accept the divinity that exists in me and the value that I have on this planet. My life matters. Your life matters. Everyone's life matters. Ultimately, again, going back to that word impact, not for you, but because of the impact you can make on others. So it was a season, it was a journey, a mind shift to really get to that point. But it all started with that Dianetics book giving me an understanding of why I was acting the way that I was acting, even though I knew it was detrimental to my existence, really.
and what was the sort of the dip out point for you? I mean, was that the attempted suicide? I mean, or what? Where do you see as the bottom of the barrel, if you like?
That was definitely my lowest point. For me personally, I don't know other people's experiences, but for me, it wasn't like light bulb on, life changed. That's not how it worked. It was like, okay, I'm starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm going to kind of move that way, but I'm still moving with the same pre-programmed thoughts and limiting beliefs that I've had my whole life. And so, maybe some people sprint to to the new revelations, but for me it was more like a centipede, just kind of, going back and forth slowly down the tunnel towards the light, continuing to make mistakes and learn a little bit more about myself and make mistakes. And, I kind of slithered my way through. So it took about it took about 4 years, and ultimately I found a great church here in Kentucky, Southland Christian Church. And for me personally, my spiritual path, the way that I was able to open that channel, was through Christianity and the Bible and Jesus Christ. And so as I traveled down that particular path, I just got I got further away from who I was and closer to who I can become, and more enlightened along the way, if that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, and as you say, it's I I appreciate you obviously saying that it wasn't just a flip the light switch. There we go, we're on the
Right.
upbound, and because it's a process, right? It's a journey you got to go through, and as you said, you're unraveling years and years of stuff, inner chatter, inner stuff going through, and so I think a lot of people are going to get that, that it's saying it's not, you know, like a quick immersion, and there we go, we're healed, and on
Right.
you go, Glenn. Be the best you can be, keep her lit.
That would be nice, but that's typically not the way it works in my experience.
Mm. And that is, it's. I mean, how how do you learn as an individual? I mean, are you an immersive type of person, or do you have to go see it to believe it? Do you reader or follower? What's your learning
All of
mechanism?
them, man. I'm I just am a student, so I can read, I can listen to audiobooks, I can watch videos, I can be at a conference. It'll be my conference. I'll be holding my own conference, and I'll come back with a notebook full of notes from all the different speakers that are on the stage. I watch myself back. I watch my own videos back. I watch my own speaking things back. Um, I'm just a student, dude. Like, I'm trying to learn. I understand that I am utterly weak without constant growing knowledge. If I'm not learning something, it is a detriment to the empire that I am trying to build. And so I will take it however I can get it, man. What if you've been there, done that, and you want to come be on my show, then come be on my show. If you want us to go sit and have coffee, let's sit and have coffee. If you want to write me a book, write me a book. You want to send me a video, send me a video. I don't care. Just give me the info, and uh I will extract what I feel resonates with me. And I also have this ability and gift to like put back. I don't take everything someone says as gospel. Uh, I will extract what makes sense, what resonates, what's valuable, and I can apply it. I can execute on it. But I won't be influenced. I'm not influenced by that. That doesn't add value to my individual cause that I'm called for, if that makes sense.
I mean, was that through that sort of 4 years and that immersion process? I mean, is that when the 2D went to 3D? Is that when that sort of started to take shape for you?
Yeah, for sure. 2D to 3D during that season. As far as an immersion process, I'm still in that. I mean, I'm up at today I was up at 3:20 a.m. I'm up, I sleep 4 hours and 20 minutes a night. I'm constantly immersed in gathering knowledge. I learn from my kids. I watch how they move, I watch how they think, I watch how they react to certain situations, and I jot it down. I've got tons of notes in my phone, like, look at how Joel responded. I just bought my son a dirt bike uh last week, and that dirt bike has a problem with it already, right? It already has a problem with it. It's back in the shop, and they're not allowed to ride it on weekdays. I told them they could only ride it on the weekends because I don't want them getting lazy, right? And so he puts his dirt bike away on Sunday. He waits all week. This kid's 8. He waits all week. Come Friday, he rides his bike for 20 minutes and it dies. 20 minutes on Friday. So Saturday, I try to work on it. We get it into the shop. They can't do anything. It's still at the shop. It'll be at the shop here today. So he goes the whole weekend while his sisters are riding around on their four wheelers that they just got last week. And he doesn't say a word. He didn't complain. You could see disappointment on his face when he couldn't ride it, but he didn't express it. He still had a great weekend filled with joy and gratitude. Like, dude, I've seen grown humans, including myself, lose their stuff, lose their stuff, dude. I just bought it last week. Are you kidding me? How could it not be working? Da, 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 da. You know, I've been there and I see grown people that are there all the time. I'm in the car business. Are you kidding me? I used to deal with customers on the daily that would complain because their windshield wiper wasn't cleaning enough water off the windshield on the car they bought a month ago. And this kid doesn't complain for a second. So I took down a note. I'm like, bro, be more like Joel. Just be grateful. You know, life happens. And so I just know I am so filled with wisdom that I know that I am stupid when it comes to the amount of knowledge that exists. I am so smart that I know that I only have a fraction of wisdom and knowledge that exists in this world. And I want more because just that, even just that little fraction is so valuable, man. It's so valuable. So that's me, dude. Full-time, lifelong, immersed student.
I love that. I mean, it's isn't it funny? The more you know, that the less you say.
That's right. That's right, man. It's like the further you climb, the more you realize, holy smokes, man, I got a long way to go.
I love it. You talked there about sort of in your early 20s, then sort of going into the automobile industry, and you were saying you were natural at that. You were just a natural born salesperson. I mean, talk us into that. I mean, what sort of strengths and what values sort of jumped out at that point that sort of made you sort of be who you were at that time?
Yeah, it just came from who I was culturally. I had to blend. It was a survival tactic. I had to be able to get along with all races, creeds, colors, ages, backgrounds, belief systems, all of that, because I grew up in two completely opposite environments in every way, shape, or form. And so for survival purposes, I learned to have a mouthpiece. I learned to be able to connect with people emotionally for safety reasons is really what it was, initially. And so then once it became a gift, became more of a gift, and I realized I could use it to generate dollars, to build businesses, to move people, to persuade people, all of those things. Once I learned I could use that for that, then I spent, 15 years of my life using it for the wrong things. Not quite 15, but a lot. And now I use that same gift, that same ability that I was given, as a teenager. Now I use it to move people towards their power, towards their greatness, towards impact, doing something positive. So it's something that's been in me my entire life. I've just used it differently. I've always had the tools, but now I try to use them to build things, not tear things down.
It always strikes me, when you're at that point and you're earning dollars and you're finding your feet, your early 20s, you're getting going and all the rest, but yet fast forward, you homeless,
Yeah,
suicide attempts, all of that, and I'm always struck at how just because it looks okay on the outside and looks all shiny and nice and all that, but actually it's a road to ruin, right? It just there's a misalignment there. It's 2D. It's not real per se. You're not,
that's right.
knowing who you're at.
Yeah, man. The 2D lifestyle is a short-lived one.
Mm, mm,
That third dimension is where once you understand eternity, once you understand energy, and that your actions and decisions, that there are, people like to use the word consequences, right? There's going to be a consequence for every action, but that's such a negative term. But ultimately there is a result. Every decision you make is going to create a result. Now, whether or not that result is positive or negative is going to come down to you. It's going to ultimately come down to you. So when I was a 2D life, I had no moral compass. I had no, it was like survival of the fittest, Darwin, let's go. Like if I stole from Pete If I stole from Pete or won over on Pete or conned Pete or whatever, if I did that, that was Pete's fault because Pete was not as survival ready as I was. Like, I'm the alpha and, I'm the lion, he's the sheep, right? Like, that was the mentality. And it wasn't until I understood the third dimension and our role and responsibility that we have for each other, the whole circle of life type thing, that what I feed into you is what ultimately feeds into me. It wasn't until I understood that I was able to be like, okay, I just can't, I can't steal from Pete. Like, Pete's my brother, dude. And whatever I do to Pete is ultimately what I'm putting out, that someone else is going to do it to me. It might not be Pete. I might get over on Pete and it might be years, but at some point, somebody is going, that energy is going to come back. It's going to come back. So sometimes people steer away from religion, or they steer away from the spiritual nature of things, and they want everything to be very physical and very mundane. And I think a lot of people steer away from it because they think that there's all these rules and disciplines in place to control us, right? They think religion's there to control, or so that we can't have fun or whatever. But ultimately, man, it's just there because, scientifically speaking, what you put out is what you get back. Simple. So, go have fun and rob, lie, cheat, steal, adulterer, go do all of those things and look at where it gets you. And see, that was the thing for me, is I kept landing in the crappiest of spots. I kept landing in the bottom of pits of hell, but yet for some reason I didn't want my actions to, I didn't want to take responsibility for that. It was like, oh, Pete put me here. Not the fact that I'm a jerk. Pete put me here. Not the fact that I'm a crook. Pete put me here. Right. And it wasn't until I was able to shift that, man. And once you shift it, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You know, like, once your eyes are open, that's it. It's like you could, they in Adam and Eve, they couldn't put it back in the box. Once the box is opened, that was it. God was like, oh, you can't hang out here no more, dude. Like, you can't unsee what you've seen. And that's how it is, in life, I think. And so, yeah, once I saw it, then I had to shift it.
Mm. It is amazing that you can't unsee what you've seen, you can't unknow what you know. And as
Right.
long, because I'm always curious in a positive way, what's the difference between an attempted suicide and a suicide? What is it there? Because, you know, I'm just curious without sort of putting a slant on it. I mean, what, in a negative way, I suppose, what takes an unsuccessful attempt and makes it successful, and that's kind of, I don't know. Have you any thoughts on that?
I mean, it's just a result. It
Mm.
all comes down to a result, you know. Um, for me, I got all the way to the point, I tried to drown myself in the ocean. So to me, I actually got to the point where I had thought I was successful. I thought I was about to drown. I had taken my last breath. But the tide was coming in as I was trying to swim out, and I'm an awful swimmer. That's why I chose that method.
Sorry, I
And
shouldn't
and
laugh, but
it's true though. It's really true. Another one of those stereotypes. But I got to the point where I thought it was over, and then was washed back on the shore in surprise. And that act got a result, right? To me, it was death 2 and life 4. In other people's situations, their result, they left the physical form. So they got a result, right? And it was death 2 and now life 4. And so I think that's the, attempted suicide and suicide on paper. What's the difference? Well, a dead body or not a dead body. But in reality, Dennis Rodman tells a story of how he went into his truck, and he killed Dennis Rodman in that truck. And he took a shotgun, he blew out the window. Did we find a dead body? No. But did he kill old Dennis Rodman? He did. Now, the one that he came out with is a little crazy, but you know what? He's free. he's free and he's joyful. And so, yeah, I think when you say what's the difference, I'd say the difference is did they get the result or not?
No, it's deep, and thank you for sharing that. It's I'm kind of almost struck by the analogy of the water and the washing away and the tide. There's all sorts of analogies there that part of you is left behind, part of you goes away, part of you. But listen, you can read into what you like.
Yeah, sure.
Talk to us a bit about Scientology, because I know that sort of throws up different emotions for people. But
It does indeed. And Scientology, for me, I spent like 6 months or so studying Scientology, and I have lots of friends that are Scientologists. I For me, it ultimately ended up not being the path that I needed to find my spiritual enlightenment. Um, and so I did exit that particular church, and now, I experience a Christian. It's a Christian experience for me. Jesus is my savior. He's my path, my light. Um, but Scientology, I would have never found Jesus if it wasn't for Scientology. So in Scientology, when you first start, they talk about the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, and they also refer to something called a thetan, Thetan, which is their version of the soul. And so here I was studying Scientology, but yet they also were talking about this third dimension. You've got mind, you've got body, you've got spirit. And so when they started to open up the doors of spiritual understanding to me, I listened because it came from a scientific perspective versus prior to that, I just thought, religion was a bunch of hogwash, whatever. And so, and I was a science person. My mind was like, very sciency. I want to be an engineer, or I knew the mathematics and statistics of different gambling games. You know what I mean? Like I was a very um, scientific person. And so when science started speaking about this thetan, this soul, this spiritual concept, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I can dig that. I can dig into that a little bit further. So Scientology did two things for me. It helped me recognize that we are spiritual beings. And then the second thing that it really helped me do is it helped me recognize the power of the subconscious mind, how it works, how to retrain it, how to reprogram it, why it's so important that we retrain it and we reprogram it. Like I just learned so much about this word control, like how my subconscious was controlling me versus me being in control of my life. And that was a huge lesson for me that I needed right at that specific time, to be able to get where I am today. So I can credit Scientology with a lot when it comes to those two things.
you see, I find that I really enjoy that because I don't mind which altar version wherever you go and whichever helps to bring answers. And I don't know why people get hung up on a label. As
I
such,
agree.
is going whatever. Listen, whatever journey, whatever way it takes, and that's fine. We respect each other and all the rest, and that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm just always
100%.
interested in the process, right? I mean, if you know, whatever method you choose, right? And listen, I'm pleased that that's sort of taking you through that journey and sort of led through. You mentioned there a bit of Buddhism as well.
Yeah, just studied it, lightly. I wasn't, full on scholar, but I was just trying to get spiritual understanding. So I was reading about all types of different, religions, belief systems, so on and so forth. Watching videos, trying to learn what resonates, what doesn't resonate, and that's why whenever I talk to someone about spiritual understanding, for me, I am a Christian. For me, Jesus is my savior. Uh, but I always put a little asterisk next to that, like that's me, and I'm not God, and I don't know God's plan for you. But I do know that my God, I don't put my God in a box, right? Like my God is capable of all things. And so if he wants to bring you to him through Scientology or through near death experience or through jail or through drinking in bars or through a church or through whatever, like he has the right and the ability to do whatever he wants, right? However he wants to do it. And so I've just always, and I think that goes back to me just kind of, I don't want to divide people, man. I'm not about division at all. I'm about bringing people together. So when somebody asks me about my walk and my spiritual journey, I share it with them. And I hope that in sharing that they can find that path as well. But I will never, ever, ever impress upon anyone that the way that I found Christ is the only way that you can find Christ. I would never, ever, ever put that, on anybody. So yeah, I'm with you, man. Like however you get there, just get there, because it's so freeing once you do get there, and it's so empowering, and it's beautiful, you know. My life before was ugly, dirty, unclean, and now I've been put in a position where I get to connect with just amazing people, and these people pour back into me as much as I pour into them, and it's beautiful, man. It's like a symphony, man, or like this big orchestrated waltz. It's just so, everything is beautiful. The trees are beautiful. The leaves are beautiful. The way the rivers curve are beautiful. The way the crickets chirp are beautiful. The way traffic patterns happen are beautiful. Like everything becomes beautiful when you realize and connect in a divine level. So I just want people to get there, man. I'm like you. I'm not here to fight about how you get there. That's not for me to say or for me to tell.
Mm. What age were you when the sort of the suicide attempt came into play?
I was like 26, right around 20, 26, 27 years old.
So take us on through then that sort of rebuild process, that that sort of new growth, if you like, and bring us up to today, if you would, please.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of two steps forward, one step back, you know, type deal. And carving out new thought processes, carving out new environments. I went from, California to Arizona, from Arizona to Kentucky, and here in Kentucky, when I first got here, I had $1,500 cash in a suitcase and really bad credit. That's what I brought with me to Kentucky, and I knew one person, a guy named Aaron Jones, and his family took me in. They were super kind. Let me sleep. His sister let me sleep on her couch for like 4 months, and then I took a job as a night auditor at a hotel complex. Did that for a while. I was trying to avoid automotive because I still blamed the automotive industry for all of my woes. And so I was trying to avoid it. So I did the night auditor thing, ultimately picked up a couple odd jobs in the automotive world. Um, and then I created, to stay out of automotive, but still fulfill my gambling love, casino love. I actually created a free poker league in Kentucky called Kentucky Blue Poker Crew. And it was free, no gambling involved. It was a league just like a dart league or a bowling league or a trivia or any of those other things. So the bars would pay me to run free poker tournaments in their bars and restaurants, because the people would come and play cards and they'd spend money. So I got $5 a head for everybody I could bring in, and I announced this big point system and prizes, and I created this whole thing, and it blew up, man. It went super, super well. I launched it and I launched it. I don't remember what year it was, but I launched it. And within a year, we had Budweiser as our sponsor and 10,000 league members that were meeting. We started with one bar and one table, and we grew it to 7 nights a week at 3 to 4 different bars every night of the week. And I had employees and all of these things. It was really spectacular to watch, and it was fulfilling a lot of my needs to pull people together, and people of all different ages and races and all of those things all in one place with one common goal. It was really cool. But one problem with it was I was hanging out in bars and restaurants till 3 o'clock in the morning every single night, every night. And if I wasn't drinking, they weren't drinking. And if they weren't drinking, the owner wasn't didn't want to pay me as much. So I had to make sure to be the life of the party to get everybody drinking and doing shots and things like that. So I spent a couple of years, in that environment, early in my when I was right at 30 years old, I guess. Um, and then my wife, I met my now wife. She was a bartender at the little dive bar that we used to hang out at after the poker tournaments were done. And for some reason, I've always been fascinated with bartenders. Like the last three or four of my girlfriends were all bartenders. I don't know if it's the free drinks or what, but there's just something about a bartender personality. And so I met my wife, and she got pregnant like that, really quick. And it was like, oh, okay, I remember this. I've done this before. I've been here before. I'm not going to make the same mistakes. And so I decided to get back into the car business because I was always good at it. But I decided if I was going to be in the car business, I was going to make an impact in the car business. If I was going to be in the car business, I wasn't going to just allow the business to do, I wasn't going to allow myself to become the person I was before when I was in the business. I was going to make change. And so I got blessed to be a part of a small dealership in a small town, population 9,600 people. I got in with an incredible guy who ultimately became one of my mentors and still is to this day. And in that environment, we were able to grow this store from your average 120 car a month dealership to the second largest used car franchise dealership in the country. We grew 800% in 6 years, from 120 cars a month to ultimately selling 1,043 cars in 27 business days in March of 2018. And so we had a lot of success uh, there in the automotive world. I made a name for myself in the automotive world. And towards the end of that season working with that company, I started my show Rise and Grind, first thing in the morning, 5:30 a.m. Monday through Friday, because I wanted to create a space with motivation, education, and inspiration, just a safe place where people could come, they could connect with other people, they could know that they are seen and that their voices are heard through the comments and those types of things. And it was also great for marketing for the dealership because we were attacking that first part of the day when people's minds are most hungry, like we talked about at the beginning of this podcast. And so I started Rise and Grind, and fast forward 10 months, I ended up leaving Dan Cummins, where I had had all that success I had gone from a salesperson all the way to general manager of the store. And I ended up walking away from that so that I could serve that fire in my belly that was just pulling me to continue to evolve and make a bigger impact. So now I work with dealerships all over the United States of America, helping them get similar results, helping change the culture of their dealership, and ultimately making an impact on their people the same way I was able to make an impact on people over at the dealership in Paris. So that's what I do now. I host my show, which has become a huge thing. We've got this huge group of 30,000 people, and it's become a clothing line, and we have events, and we do charitable stuff where, charitable outreach where we serve homeless people and different things like that. So I've got Rising Grind in one hand, I've got my automotive training and whatnot in the other, and that woman that was the bartender that I met that got pregnant, she's having our seventh child, my eighth child altogether, but she's having my seventh child here in January, and that's it, man. That's what we're doing.
Wow, I love it. Fair play to you. I'm a couple of questions have sort of popped out on that. You talked about being fascinated by pit bosses. Right at the start, you talked about that
Yeah,
sort of thing, and then you mentioned you sort of used very similar wording when you were fascinated by bartenders.
right.
What is it that sort of catches you about that? Is it the facilitation side? Is it the system side? What is it?
I have no idea, man. I really don't know. It's glamorous, I guess, right? It's glamorous, and when it came to like, so um, my wife was very strong, but at the same time, like super cool. And I don't know, like I'd watch her control a room, man. My wife could control a room. A pit boss can control a room, right? You got a bunch of drunk people in there, you got a bunch of whatever, but the pit boss still, he looks like he's just this debonair guy in a suit, and he's being friendly and he's shaking hands and he's doing all the things, but at the same time he's aware of everything that's going on, and he's in complete control of making sure everyone in that room is having an amazing time. That's his job, right? And I think a bartender has the same role. It's their job to keep an eye on everything, be aware of everything that's going on, shake hands, smile real big, but at the same time, they're controlling the environment and the energy of the room to make sure that everyone in that room is having a good time. You're not drinking too much. You're not fighting over here. You're not talking crap to this person. And so my wife did an amazing job at that. She could just control all these different personalities, and that was fascinating. And the pit boss, it's just fascinating. I love it. And I think to like my poker league, the poker league was kind of I got to be the pit boss, man. I got to hand out who got the chips, and I made sure certain people were sitting with certain people, and we controlled the music and the environment, and every little detail and aspect was in place to create an environment where people could just come together and have an amazing time. In our dealerships, we do the same thing, man. We create a culture where people feel safe, right? They can go and they can have fun, and it's rewarding all at the same time. And so when you tie them all together, I've always just been really drawn to this idea of bringing people together, and in inserting, or extracting is the right word, extracting joy from them, right? Finding a way to make them smile. And so maybe that's it. Maybe that's why I like the bartenders, because
Mm,
they're they're a lot like a pit boss, I guess, which is a lot like me.
I get it, and I suppose again, what's sort of flashing back through my head, and you talked about that's sort of it's a value that your father had, but it was a controlling, but this is like a completely different energy. It's the same mechanism in a way, but with different intention and different
Mm.
impact. Does that
Yeah,
make
no
sense?
doubt. Totally makes sense.
And
Yeah,
it's
it's interesting.
it is interesting, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
And even like I find it, going with the poker league. So essentially, you've made something uh, from nothing. And the same with sort of rise and grind. You start with somewhere, right? And you put it out there, and again, people choose to come and follow as opposed to going right. We exchange time for money or whatever. That ultimately comes when you add more value, but ultimately it's on their terms. They come to you, you you exchange value, and then they choose to come on board or do interact with you in different ways. But I like that. That's a sort of it's a mechanism. It's a control, not a control side. It's an opportunity for people to come on, but on their terms, right?
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, you're 99% spot on, because I don't just wait. Like I said earlier, I'm not a Venus, I'm working diligently every day to become more omnipresent. So I want people to casually bump into me everywhere they turn. That's what I want. I want you to, Glenn's over there, Glenn's over there, Glenn's over there, and then ultimately at some point, yes, you choose to come run with us or not come run with us. I'm not going to force anybody into anything, but people can't choose if they don't know, right? Like, they can't someone can't choose to join Rise and Grind group if they don't know it exists. And so I feel I have the responsibility to making sure that everyone has that opportunity to choose whether they want to run with us, um, or not, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, listen, I love that because it is a bit of both, and with rise and grind, right? You're sort of going, you got to get up, you got to take the actions, you got to do this. You can do it with the positive and the right intention, right? You can't force people to come, but if you are omnipresent, if you are pushing out so much value, so much assistance to people, then naturally you will sort of bend the laws of the universe, if you like.
Yes.
People will just naturally
Yes,
gravitate, right?
absolutely. 100%. Bend the laws
I
of the
love it.
universe.
I love
That's the right words right there.
it. It is. I tried to liken it the other day. It's like it's kind of like being, you are the Star Trek ship, and like the universe is just sucked in behind you. It's like, yeah, just
No doubt, man. No doubt. And the older I get, the more I experience, the more I understand that concept right there, because the universe literally does start to bend. It's like the Matrix, man. It's crazy as you unlock all these different pieces of your mind and your spirit, and it's full on Matrix style. The Wachowski brothers got it right. That's for sure.
that's like next level stuff. I think people are still just sort of cottoning on to what they were maybe talking about in the
Uh-huh.
first
I
place,
think
right?
so too.
Yeah. And so for you, I mean, are you now where you're supposed to be?
Right now in this moment in this season, yeah. 100%.
Mm,
How long I stay in this season, you know, who knows? Are there more seasons? Yes. We've got I mean, we've got a long way to go, man. Like this this rise and grind thing and my company and my family. I mean, we're like babies. And the company's only been around for 2 years. My automotive side of the company's only been around for a year. Um, my kids, one of them's not even born yet, so we don't know. Who knows what that dynamic looks like? No, as far as I'm concerned, like I am exactly where I'm supposed to be at 42 years old on October 19th, 2020. Um, but what the future holds, my guess is what we're
mm,
doing right now will be completely unrecognizable when I look back. I
mm.
hope so anyway.
Are you proud of you?
Yeah, man, big time. Yeah, super proud. My kids are my kids are cool, dude. My kids are cool. My wife's taken care of. You know, I'm serving humans. Um, I'm not dividing people. I'm doing the exact opposite, bringing people together, and that's very, very, very cool. So I'm very proud of what I'm proud of the fact that God has decided to use me as one of His tools to shine light on this planet. Like that's pretty cool, right? Like He could have chose anybody. Um, and in reality, I think He chooses all of us, but only some of us take action on it. And so I'm proud of the fact that I'm bending the universe in a way that it's making an impact in so many people's lives.
Mm, mm. Talk to us about people who have made a big impact in your life.
Oh man, there's a few. Danelle is one of them. I mentioned her earlier. Is she's the one whispering in my ears, and um, Josh Cummins was the owner of the dealership that I worked at there for a little while, and he was just an amazing person, just really an incredible person. He was a great mentor, a great guide. Wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for him. That's for sure. Um, my mom, of course, is my biggest fan, my biggest cheerleader. We wanted one of the things I wanted to do for my mom was buy her a home to make up for all the trouble I put her through back in the day, and so we were able to do that. And her and my stepdad live here now, and so they live here in Kentucky with me, and so my kids get to be around their grandparents all the time, which I didn't get to do when I was little. So super cool about that. But my mom's really taught me what it looks like to be a die-hard loyal fan. No matter what. Like I've always been a fan of the Raiders, even though they lose all the time, as you can see from my seat. Right, I'm a fan of the Raiders, and that's how my mom was for me. Like she was just a fan for me, even though I was losing all the time. And so now to be able to make her proud is super inspiring for me. But outside of my parents and or my mom and my stepdad, and then Josh Cummins and now Danelle, and I have some other mentors in the automotive space that have taught me a lot of automotive stuff. But outside of that, like really, a lot of my mentors are people I've never met in my entire life, man. It's the people that took the time to create massive amounts of content so that they could become present, so that I could choose to listen to what they have to say. So Eric Thomas, and it's funny, man. It's all seasonal, right? Like when you just get out of a breakup, right? You just break up. What do you want? Like you listen to sad music, right? You listen to all this sad music because it like moves you, all this love music, and you cry and you let it all out. I think that we're like that when it comes to our mentors and stuff too. So when I was first moving through this self-development world, Les Brown was my jam. Like I'd listen to Les Brown every single day because Les Brown is a very like you're at the bottom type speaker. That's who he's talking to, right? Like if you can look up, you can get up. Yeah, that type of stuff. Not that he said that, but you know what I mean. Whereas once I started to kind of climb out of that space, then I needed, Eric Thomas. Eric Thomas is more the, all right, let's get out there and let's start fighting for what we want. We've picked ourselves up. Now let's start to fight. And then Eric Thomas was there for a season for me. And then it kind of moved to more leadership stuff like John Maxwell and Jim Rohn. And then those things led to, even more really going down the Napoleon Hill rabbit hole, which is a very long rabbit hole with the how to win friends and influence people and the power of positive thinking. You start going into that world. And so I just have a lot of and actually one of the big ones that I can't not mention is Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone has been, and I have had the luxury of meeting him. Him and I are friends now at this point. I just met him for the first time 3 years ago, but for 20 years I've studied Grant Cardone, sales trainings and things like that from Grant Cardone. So I've got a lot of them, and it really just depends on what season I'm in. Right now I Elizabeth Gilbert just she wrote a book called Big Magic, which is really it really sparked the it sparked my idea of what inspiration looks like and how to execute on it in a way I'd never thought of before. So now I'm starting to explore David Meltzer. David Meltzer is a very meditation, that type of person. And so he's one of my mentors. I'm starting to learn from now, stacking. But those are some of my favorites.
I love that. I mean, there's so many greats in there, including Grant Cardone, obviously Mr. 10X himself, and
Yeah.
not that sort of really leans into the whole rise and grind side, right? That's you gotta just keep showing up, keep turning up, keep doing it, no matter what, right?
I actually, in the last week, Grant Cardone has liked like 5 of my posts, and I've screenshotted each one. I'm like, all right, we're starting to get. He sees us. He sees us. So if he sees us, who else sees us, right? This omnipresence
Mm.
thing is it's a big task. I've done 726 episodes of hashtag Rise and Grind in 2.5 years, and not to mention all types of videos on top of that. 2 posts a day on 5 different platforms. It's a total of 13. So 13 posts a day for the last 3 years between LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, so on and so forth. 725 episodes or 726 episodes plus another probably thousand individual just like lives, videos, whatever. So all of it is starting, it's all evergreen content. Once it's out there, it's out there forever, which is amazing. And so now, like if you Google Glenn Lundy and then click video, I'm the first 17 pages on Google, the first 17 pages before you see any other Glenn Lundy out there. And that took a lot of freaking hours, man, and a lot of work and a lot of showing up and so on and so forth. So now we're starting to reach that point when I see some of the big dogs are starting to like our stuff and so on and so forth. I'm like, okay, all right, we're it's working. It's working. It's all starting to add up. And I know there'll be some exponential, growth that comes out of the other side of it. And so I just keep plugging away, man, every single day. It's amazing.
I almost feel the need to give out, give a shout out to any other Glenn Lundy out there, because man, you've got a serious act to follow, right? It's like,
Good luck catching up, I'll tell you that.
hey man, you better turn up bloody early if you want if you want to be a Glenn Lundy. It's like, yeah. Oh, I love the consistency. I love the structure. I love and that's the thing. It is just posting and posting and posting and posting and following a system. And you're going to get likers, lovers, haters, whatever, but you're also going to get those that turn up and they become part of the tribe and really sort of resonate, right? That's the whole thing. I
Dude,
mean,
it's too.
what's your core message? What are you trying to get across to people? What do you hope people hear from you?
So ultimately, the core message is that you are a child of God, the God of the universe, the God that made everything, made you to be the absolute best version of yourself that you can possibly be. Not an average version, not an above average, not a little bit below average, but the absolute best. And because of that and through that, you are loved. Whether you feel loved or not, whether you feel alone or not, whether there's anyone around you or not, you are loved. You're a part of this bigger ecosystem. You matter, you have worth, you have value. So ultimately, that's the big message. That's not a message that people are necessarily ready to hear. Um, and so we get to the big message through the consistent disciplined habits like what you were talking about there. So rise, evolve, impact together, right? Let's rise every day with intention and purpose. Uh, the 5 simple steps, the morning five, don't hit your snooze button. Don't touch your phone first thing in the morning. Write down what you're thankful for. Write down your goals. Take care of yourself physically. Send out an encouraging message. All of these are doing is these are just setting the stage. I'm hoping to help people crack through that initial barrier. So the initial barrier to spiritual enlightenment is the limiting beliefs, the doubts, the fears, all of those things. A lot of those things come from the way you start your day. You wake up at the last second, you jump right into the news, you feed the anxieties and the fears and the doubts and all of those other things. You rush out, you perform at a sluggish level because your sleep cycles aren't right, you're not eating right, you're not taking care of yourself physically. So you're performing at average or below average as it is. Then what you're feeding your mind is consuming any opportunity for you to find a spiritual connection and awakeness. You can't get that frequency right when you're not doing things right. And so we start off by physical. If we can help you do some physical things consistently over time, that will start to unlock space for mental. And once we can start to reprogram the mental, it creates an opportunity for spiritual awareness, which then I can tell you you're a child of God, the God of the universe, the God that made everything. And you can maybe hear me at that point, and then hopefully your path from there takes you wherever it goes, so that we can go make an impact. So it's a real big thing, this big like tornado that's out there spinning, and we're just trying to bring in as many souls as we can and filter them all the way down to the end of the funnel. um, and in all reality, it's not my job to help them gain that spiritual awareness. I just try to position them a little bit easier so then God can do whatever he's got to do, right? And that comes back down to I'm never trying to impress upon anyone, just because it's my way that's the way. So I just try to help bring people lower down that funnel, make it a little bit easier. Just and it's really for their sake, because I know what they get when, on the other side of that. But the reason we go so hard and we do it the way that we do it is it is 2020, and I am a student, like I told you earlier. I study success, and there's no one, as far as I'm concerned, there's no one more successful, no more successful human in the history of the world than Jesus. That dude has sold more books than anybody in of all time, dude. Like he's been selling books for a couple thousand years, and they're in every hotel room. I mean, this book is everywhere, right? Like it's crazy. So his success is something I study, and by looking at his success, I think, my gosh, this guy had a message that he wanted to share with the world. And if he wanted an audience of 40 people, he would have to get up, pack a donkey or a mule or something. He'd have to go out across the desert and travel for 3 days with no air conditioning, no, nothing. There's a chance he might get like beat along the way. He might get stoned. He might get leprosy or something. Who knows, man? There's no medical. He ain't got a doctor with him. He ain't got no virus protection. He's got no masks he can wear. It's nothing. It's him traveling 3 days across the desert in the heat, facing nearly starvation to go get an audience of 40 people so that he could share his message. Here we are in 2020. I don't even have to be wearing pants right now, and you wouldn't know. I could be sitting here in my underwear, and I can click a couple buttons, and I can have an audience of 40, 400, 4,000, 40,000, 4,000,000, 4 billion. Nah, not quite. Facebook's not there yet, right? But you get what I'm saying, 400 million, right? And so I look at it and go, dude, if the most successful person in history was willing to go through that for me, ultimately for me, the least I can do is give it all I got with the technology that we have today, to try to at least reach, if it's just one person who needs to hear that they're valued, that they're special, that they're a child of God. If there's just one person out there, man, and we can reach them in the deepest, darkest corner of wherever they are, then that makes it all worth it to me.
I love the passion you carry with that. I was going to ask you if you're wearing pants, but we'll skip on past that.
We got pants on today. We got pants. We got pants. We got pants on
Oh,
today.
we got you. Okay, that's cool. He just had to just for the sake of the video and the audio watchers, he has pants on. We're cool. We're good. Uh, is there a fourth dimension? Is there a 4D? Is there a 5D? Do you think? Because you talked about going 2D to 3D, and that's sort of and that's that side. Mind, body, and spirit. I mean, is there more? Do you think?
Probably. I mean, I don't know, man. I know that sometimes I feel like, there's so many unexplainable things that happen in my life and in other people's lives. And I don't know, how does somebody lift a 4,000 pound car off of their baby all of a sudden? Like, how does that happen, right? Like, what is that? I don't know. How do twins separated at birth meet up at the same place across the country 35 years later? I don't know, man. How do how do how does in quantum physics, how does a particle on one side of the universe and a particle on the other side of the universe, when you tickle one, the other one laughs? Like, I don't know, bro. Like, there's so much that we don't know, and I love that. So yeah, there's probably fourth dimension. There's probably 5Ds, probably infinite Ds, and yours are probably different than mine, and mine are different than anybody else's. We were all. It's like I said earlier. It's all this beautiful symphony, man. It's
Hmm.
all just this beautiful symphony, and there's something that happens when you take a violin and you mix it with a cello, and you mix it with percussion, and you mix it with a flute, and you mix it with a clarinet, and you mix it with a trumpet, and you mix it like all these things. There's something magical that happens when they come together. Individual pieces are one thing, but it comes together and it creates something that never existed before. And what is that? I mean, is that Is that physical? I don't know. I guess science could try to explain it away, but I remember sitting there in a Celine Dion concert in Las Vegas, Nevada, and tears just pouring down my face as this woman's voice resonated through my soul. Like, what is that, man? Like, I don't know what dimension that's on, but it's amazing food the same way. You can take a little salt and a little pepper and a little cilantro and a little mustard and a little this and a little bit of that, and you can put it all together. My mom, she just came to the house yesterday, and she makes a potato salad that my wife loves, that my kid love, that we all love, and she makes deviled eggs that we all love. And so she can take like an egg and some mustard and some mayonnaise or whatever, right? And she can throw it together, and when you eat it, it takes you back in time, right? It takes you back to a comfort place. Like, how is that? What dimension is that where a flavor can take you back in space and time to where you know, everybody needs mama when they're sick, right? You're like, mama, come take care of me. Like, give me some soup, tuck me in. Like, it's amazing, man. So, yeah, I think there's got to be infinite, probably, but I don't know. Right now, I can just attack mind, body, and spirit, and I just like to experience the rest, you know?
It's a bit like you were saying with the senses, right? The sort of core senses that we sort of on a physical plane we know about, but then you go into the other planes and it's like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to stop? It's like,
Right.
that's the beautiful thing
Crazy.
about it. Anything's possible, right?
Anything.
Hmm.
Absolutely anything, Pete.
What's a guilty pleasure for you, or just a pleasure if you want to remove the guilt part?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't have any guilty tendencies anymore. I don't like to um I don't
Pleasure and
allow
leisure,
negative.
then.
Yeah, I don't allow negative emotions. Um, I don't know, man. I get joy out of everything that I do.
You were
I
get
really do.
you were getting a
I
pretty
love to
good buzz on
work.
there talking about food. I was like, that's what.
Yeah, man. I love food. I love to work. I love family. I love traveling. I love everything. I'd say probably the strangest thing, like as far as something strange, I watch I really enjoy some of the Disney programming, that like Disney movies and Disney programming that my kids watch, like shows like Stuck in the Middle and all these different shows. Liv and Maddie, what an incredible show that one is. I really, really, I can sit on the couch and watch these shows with my kids, or I can go to the movie theater and get all jacked up and excited over Moana or any of those things, man. When a new one comes out, I'm like, come on, kids, we got to go to the movie. Dad needs to see the newest Disney movie. So I really, really, I love that. I could binge watch Disney movies and sing. I'll sing the songs and I cry, man. I cry like a baby. Anytime anything great happens in a movie or a television show, I cry. Whether it be America's Got Talent and somebody wins that wasn't supposed to win, or it's a comeback story in a football game, I'll cry. Or these Disney movies, man, I'm a sap, man. I'm an energy, I'm an empath, man. I feel what they feel, man. And so I love stories of greatness.
I love that, and that's a beautiful place to be, right? You are just connected. You are. That's it.
Yeah, it's great, man. It's awesome.
In one or two words, then, can you tell me what is your fire in the belly then?
In one or two words, impact. That's it. It's all about impact.
Or Judy? How can people reach out, find you, follow you, stalk you, hunt you down? How can they get in
Yeah, sure.
touch?
They can go to glennlundy.com. If you go to glennlundy.com, it'll link you to all my different social media feeds. You can learn more about me and what I do, and how it might be something that can serve you. Um, we've got our group on Facebook, the Rise and Grind group. You can link to that from there. The show, the Morning Five. If you want 5 simple steps to an extraordinary life, something that you can do every single day, that will change your world, go to themorning5.com. That's the number five, themorning5.com. Download the free ebook. It'll take you about 40 minutes to read it, and it's incredible. I wrote it, and so I probably shouldn't say that, but I'm just telling you, it's incredible.
Loud and proud. That's what it's all about, you know? No, that's cool. Glenn, any final thoughts before we sign off?
No, man, just thank you so much. I really, really appreciate. I know I've said it. This will be the third time now, but it means a lot to me when you choose to share your time with me. I understand how valuable time is, and for giving me an opportunity to share my voice, just means it means everything to me, man. From a guy
Mm.
who knows what it's like to be invisible, there's nothing more appreciated than feeling seen, and you've been able to do that for me today, and I just really appreciate it, man.
Listen, thank you. Thank you for turning up. Thank you for being open, honest, vulnerable, true. And, thank you for being here. I respect you. And yeah, you've made an impact on me and you will on the listeners. So thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks, my man. Take care.
Take care.